sometimes by virtue of the effervescence that you have given to the patient, I mean the steroid that you have given to the patient, you might have a difficult situation where you're suspecting few blasts here and there, not enough to get an answer on immunophenotyping, not enough to get an answer on immunohistochemistry, and you're stuck. And that has happened to us through Sushrusha Hospital also. So that's a difficult situation. So we prefer not to give transfusion to those people unless it's life-threatening. Now, of course, we have no choice. We can't hold it back. We have to give it, but do the marrow as soon as is possible. Sometimes leukemia, especially in children, especially ALS, can present as an aplastic marrow. The presentation is aplasia, hardly any blasts inside it. And over a period of time, the blasts start increasing. These have poor prognosis. But you call it aplastic anemia, later on it becomes leukemia, and they say, has it transformed? Or they might even blame you saying that we missed it. Both ways. So there is an entity in which it can present as an aplastic marrow. Subsequently, the leukemic clone might be seen. I recently came across this condition called smoldering leukemia. A young gentleman, he's 52, I'm getting there, so I'm calling him young. So smoldering leukemia, where a young man came with a count which is showing a hemoglobin of 10.5, a white cell count which was, I think, 5 or 6,000, and a platelet count which was 80,000. And we did his marrow because there were blasts on the peripheral blood, 8 or 9% blasts. We did his marrow, and his marrow showed about 20 to 25% blasts. Not enough to call it acute leukemia by FAP classification. The bone marrow biopsy further confirmed the myeloid nature, and it was full of blasts. But because it did not satisfy the FAP criteria of 30%, we could not call it acute leukemia of the AML variety. We had to call it smoldering leukemia. And we did say, I did say that you have to treat it as AML. A patient is absolutely comfortable, no problems. He had come to the hospital for gallstone surgery. As part of gallstone surgery, a routine CBC PD was done, and this was picked up. So surgeon ne kya bola? Idhar le ja CBC. If I had not done the CBC, I had done mera surgery to no, we've got good surgeon. So the surgery was not done. For the surgery, CBC was done, and this was all incidental. Patient is not symptomatic at all. Incidentally picked up, and we called it a smoldering leukemia. Of course, that patient has not come back to me thereafter, because I don't think he was happy with the diagnosis. But this is one situation that you can face. What happens? I read up literature. Over a period of time, the leukemic cells can increase in number and present as acute leukemia. Sometimes the bone marrow is dry or blood tap, and we have discussed this. Myelodysplasia. I still feel it's a difficult situation. If you get the classic, and I'm going to show you slides of myelodysplasia. If you get the classic presentation of myelodysplasia, the classic morphological changes, damn good. You can surely call it myelodysplasia. But if they're not classic, they are subtle changes, then it becomes hard. So you've got a clinical suspicion of myelodysplasia. At the same time, the pathological findings may not correlate, and it was hard to call it myelodysplasia. And I don't want myelodysplasia to become a graveyard for undiagnosed anemias or undiagnosed cytopenia. It's very easy for us to call it myelodysplasia and say end of story, end of investigation. But that may not be correct. We need to look at other things than myelodysplasia. But sometimes giving a myelodysplasia diagnosis is very hard. Please remember, there is not much therapy also for myelodysplasia. And therefore, giving the diagnosis of myelodysplasia invites questions, what to do now? And that invites trouble because you don't know what to do now. Most of the time, there are no guidelines for myelodysplastic syndrome. What are there, we cannot afford. Most of our patients cannot afford. What are there are on the basis of cytogenetics and special strains, many of which cannot afford. So in a myelodysplasia, in a bit of a thankless situation. Next slide. So this is our CBC. Most of us are aware of this. Based on the Koiter principle, we've got the volume of the WBC, and we've got the complexity of the cell. We all know that cells which are over here, they are the lymphoid cells because they are smaller cells and they don't have much granularity. The larger cells, which have less granularity, are monocytes, but more than the lymphocytes, obviously. Then those cells which are larger than lymphocyte, but probably smaller than monocyte, but with much more complexity of the granules, as opposed to lymphoids or monocytes, they are the neutrophils. When they start going upwards, we know that it's a shift to left. Promyelocytes, myelocytes, metamyelocytes start coming up over here. And these are the eosinophils, because they are probably as large as neutrophils, but they are much more complex, they are much more granular, and therefore they come over here in the picture. So this is the simple representation of the CBC on a scattergram. All the dots which you are seeing, these are called dot plots, and they represent the cells that have been counted by the machine. Machine counts on an average 8,000 odd cells to give you a picture such as this. You are doing a DC on 100 cells. You don't think you are superior, but the problem, your need eyes behind the microscope are when it's in watershed areas. So if you have a population here, you have a population here, you have a population here or a population here, the machine doesn't know what to call it. So sometimes in a differentiate, it will give a dash, dash, dash. It's not able because it's not being fed or programmed to give an answer for this. And we cannot give feeding into the computer that if it comes here it is APML, if it comes here it's ALL. Because there are different conditions that can happen and we can't allow that to happen. What we know is standard things which are there we can fit into a machine. Next slide. So based on a CBC, which is the starting point for you and me, we can have normal CBC, unicytopenia, bicytopenia, pancytopenia or a proliferative. And we all know absolute numbers are more important. I know this because the number of reports that come across, all are now having, many of them now have absolute numbers. But the major hospitals still are not giving the absolute numbers. And there is one major hospital which is still calling the platelets adequate. So I don't know when that adequacy will go. But still, you have to pay more to get a platelet count. And it's a very major hospital, but they will not change. So CBC is CBC, platelets are part of CBC. You're supposed to give a platelet. But still it comes as adequate. Pay 40% more, you get an answer. Okay, so that's the situation. So you can get this kind of a combination on it. Next slide. Beyond the CBC, when do we do marrows? We do marrows when we have got unexplained abnormal CBC. We cannot fit the clinical diagnosis to the CBC. When we've got abnormal, unexplained clinical presentation to the normal CBC, we don't know what the hell is happening. Patients of PUO, and I'm just glad to know I was interacting with one of our pathologists, a senior gentleman, and he said one of the HIV patients, they picked up granulomas of tuberculosis. Where the CBC was slightly on the pancytopenic side, the marrow biopsy picked up the diagnosis of tuberculosis. And I'm told this has become common. I also have 27, 28 cases where we picked up tuberculosis on the bone marrow. And I'm hoping that we can pull in data one day and present this as a paper somewhere. Because in our country, tuberculosis is a problem Western literature may not report. Of course, another reason for doing marrow is that there is unexplained lymphadenopathy or organomegaly. And recently there was a lymphadenopathy. FNAC was attempted, there was nothing on it. And we did a marrow, and the marrow has shown a presence of a leukemia. So sometimes when there is lymphadenopathy or organomegaly which is unexplained, doing a marrow picks up the diagnosis. Still, as far as marrow is concerned, there is tremendous patient hesitation and there is a lot of myths. It is believed by the patient that bone marrow means cancer. There is no doubt in people's mind. Because serials, movies, all have shown that bone marrow, and they have shown it to be an extremely painful thing. I remember 2 years ago, one of the popular serials at night had shown the prominent protagonist writhing in pain when a marrow was being done. And it was totally detrimental. But there's tremendous hesitation part of the patient, and so we have to sit down and explain to them that marrows are for things other than cancers also. And I'll show you some non-cancerous conditions in which marrows can be done. And we picked up recently a few. Next slide. We've gone through this. Next slide. When we are reporting on bone marrows, we would like to comment on the fragments. Each of the 3 cell lines, erythroids, myeloids and megakaryocytes, all 3 should be commented. Many times, one of the major hospitals is giving it like a text. Erythroids, normal maturation, myeloids, seen, no maturation, arrest, megakaryocytes, no parasites. 4 lines. Shows that the interest level may not be very high on the reporting. But each of the cells should be commented on. We should comment on the number, the maturation, features of dysplasia, or morphologic variation, whether there are any inclusion bodies, and I'll show you some inclusion bodies in myeloma cells. Overall and non-erythroid blast population is very important in myelodysplasia, where the non-erythroid blast population, which is more than 30, is considered to be as an acute leukemia. Iron stains, and I'll show you one slide where we picked up a diagnosis, and brain helped me pick up this diagnosis. And sometimes, of course, we have to do special stains if you know that it's not affordable. I'm not happy with special stains. It is very time consuming. FAS, Sudan, peroxidase are 3 of the special stains that are done. You can also do trap staining also, and the non-specific esterase staining, but they are extremely time consuming, and with the advent of immunophenotyping, almost this special stain is given up. In fact, I've stopped asking for it. Next slide. So when you give out a bone marrow aspirate, this is the kind of report that would be nice for our patients and their physicians, where clinical detail is given, the CBC numbers are given, and an abnormality for which you're doing a marrow is being given here. Then you comment on the fragments, the erythroids, the myeloids, the megakaryocytes in terms of morphology and maturation of each cell line. Presence or absence of plasma cells, lymphoid cells, and parasites. If there's anything else, it can come as others over here, for example, hemophagocytosis. And at the end, we would like a bone marrow conclusion to show the clinician what it means. This will be a nice report that will tell us all the details, both morphological, pathological analysis, and a clinical kind of an insight into what is happening. So it will be a nice combination of clinical path correlation. This will be a nice bone marrow report. Next slide. Next slide. Now we go to some slides, and in this we've got a normal marrow. For those who are not used to seeing marrows, this is the fragment that I'm talking about. It is this fragment that you suck out when you're doing a marrow, and it is when you're making the smear. These are the cells which fall out from the fragment. When you're making the smear, you're actually crushing the fragment, taking it forward, so cells spill out, and this is what you're analyzing. This is not what you're analyzing. This is not analyzing. This is just to see for cellularity, but you can't make out the morphology here. It's all too coagulated to give any kind of an answer. But from this, the cell trails which have come out, these are called the cell trails. This is what we are looking at, and this is we are coming to an answer. In this, you can see all different types of cells over here. Some very polyclonal. Next slide. And you can see that there are myeloid precursors, and there are erythroids also. Similarly over here, you're seeing different stages of myeloid cells, and you're seeing the erythroids over here. Next slide. And this is a normal megakaryocyte. You can see the platelet budding over here, full of platelets. This is the megakaryocyte nucleus. So this is a normal megakaryocyte. Next slide. Look at this situation. We said that this was monocyte, this was lymphocyte, this was neutrophil, this was a normal presentation. But in this patient, the maximum number of cells are over here. When we looked at the slide, next slide, this is what we saw on the peripheral blood. Very few of them. Anyone wants to comment on this? These cells, they are large cells, irregular, presence of nucleoli, prominent nucleoli, right? And there is cytoplasm around it.